There, here. Beautiful. Okay. Wonderful.
Miniatures, volume size.
That's in the Pashias or the original one?
Parshas.
Very nice. Okay. All you have to do now is to learn it through.
Yeah, like it's a big problem. Everything I have, I like learning them. I like everything I have, I try to make sure I know it. Now that I have this, I don't have a choice. Just stay up all nights now.
Are we still waiting for somebody? Gessel is here, Aaron Gessel.
Play Wednesday.
What?
Play back on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's pursue this. Okay, we will start. We're on page Pei Aleph, I'm sure you know, and we're just above the middle of the second paragraph, and the line begins with two ayins, al atzmoi, an acronym of two ayins. So we introduced over here, in general, the Inyan was referred to as Hashem himself. And the Rebbe says, Hashem himself, I mean, this is in conjunction with discussion with what the Pasuk speaks about Yetzias Mitzrayim. That Yetzias Mitzrayim had to be through Hashem himself, Ani v'loy malach, only I and not through a malach. In other words, it has to be some madrege that's called Ani. And we're discussing this Ani, and we're saying that this refers to as Hashem himself, who bears everything. Everything that exists is sourced in him. Okay, so now we continue over here. Who Inyan Who Inyan Oirin Soif Yesh Amiti. This is the Inyan, the principle. We say Oirin Soif, and we also call it Yesh Amiti. The true Yesh, the true presence. What is the meaning, what is the inference of Yesh Amiti? These are very deep concepts, principles, but I don't want to leave it without any elaboration, any handle on what we mean. Yesh Amiti, the true presence, the true Yesh. So we will use an analogy, a motion from a person, a human being. In the person, there is his inner intelligence. A living human being with an neshama and with seichel has what's called an inner intelligence. How he reacts and what how he relates to everything that he sees, to everything that he experiences. I'll give you a very fine example. I hope you'll be able to understand it. A person looks at the sky and he says the sky is pure blue. That's how he described it, right? Pure blue. Now, this in this description that the sky is pure blue is a description, what's called a relative. It's in comparison to something else. It's blue and not white and not red and not black. If he wants to describe it to someone, externally, he will say this is blue. This is how it appears. This is the chitzonius of it. When he himself is experiencing it and he sees and he sees this pure blue, he's not thinking to it, oh, this is blue. It has an impression on him. Like blue has an impression on a person. It's calming, it's soft, it's pleasant. It's some kind of an impression. It's not blue. Blue is a way to describe it to someone else. But the way he experiences it inside is an indescribable. It's not. He can't describe it. This is a living human being that's experiencing something. It's not a mitzias. When you start describing it, it becomes a mitzias. He can illustrate it and so forth. So the way it is inside him, we can call it ayin. It's a non-presence. The way he's describing it, it's a yesh. This is on a superficial perspective.
I didn't get why it's before he described it's ayin and after he described it's yen.
Because before he's describing it,
Ayin for who?
to himself. This is just the way it is. It's not the way it is because I grasp it this way, because I understand it this way, because I describe it this way. You understand? It's just the way it is. The person becomes impressed directly by this reality. And it's just the way it is. It's not let's put yesh and ayin. Yesh means something, like I said, when you touch a table, you feel the table because there is something there. So there is something there that affects me. It's separate from me and it affects me. And the reason I know that it's there is because it affects it. It interferes with my hand. I'm trying to move my hand and I can't because the table stops it. That's a yesh. You understand? So it's a presence. Because of its presence, that's why I'm aware of it. Because it affects me. Because I can describe it. I see it's a color. That's yesh. But the very reality itself, not as a mitzias that affects me, but just the very reality itself is like ayin. This is the reality itself as it is unto itself. Am I getting across here?
Is it the same way a table would affect you just by the shape, the curvatures? Just by looking at it?
I explained many times the difference between touch and sight. Remember, touch, you come in contact with the object. That's why you know it. Sight, you don't come in contact with the object. You don't come in contact. So how do you know it? If it doesn't, you don't touch it, how do you know it? What do you know? The answer is, you know it because it's true, not because it affects you. Because it's there. So you know it not because of its yesh. You know because of the truth of it, because of the in its own abode, in its ayin, without any effect, without any screaming out, I'm here. Just the reality itself, that's how you know it. In touch, you know it because it affects you. It says, don't go there, I'm going to stop you. Do you follow what I'm saying, the allegory? Huh?
Complicated because like when you, why is something real to you that you see? Because you see it. Because it's there.
That's right, because it's there. What does because it's there mean? Not because it affects you.
You don't feel it.
That's right. Because it's there, that's right. It's not a yes. And it's interesting, I always point out, that even though sight is so impressive, has such a profound impression, there's nothing truer than sight. And yet, sight is the easiest thing to ignore. There's no other, there are five senses, no other sense of the five senses that a person can actually lock out. You can't lock out your ears, you can't lock out your touch, your taste, you can't. Because it hits you. Sight, just don't look, close your eyes. The easiest thing to ignore is sight. Sight you see because you want to see it, not because it imposes itself on you. On the other hand, it's true. That's why you want to see it, because you connect to it. Are you still with me? Yes? Yes? This is the concept of Yesh Amiti. This is only a moshel. Yesh Amiti. Yesh Amiti means that his presence is not because he imposes himself, he shows himself. Something is being expressed. It's because it's true. It's the truth itself. The godly truth itself is above any kind of presence. And it allows for everything. It's the source of everything. No limit. Because it's the truth itself. Okay. This is how much we're going to go into it now. Just wanted to explain to you that the word Yesh Amiti has a meaning. The true being, Yesh Amiti, this true being, in essence is ayin. It's quiet, it doesn't impose itself. But that's the real source of everything. Just like the motion of sight, right? You could see the table, and the table tells you, look at me, either see me, no, don't see me, I don't care. If you touch me, I'm going to react. But if you look at me, I'm quiet. Because that's the essence of it. We'll get a little bit of this point. This is a very rich Indian. But slowly you get exposed to these deeper Yomim Chassidus. Okay? So this is the Yesham, that's what's called Eir Ein Sof. What's Eir Ein Sof? Ein Sof is infinite light. What's meant infinite? Something that exists has to have an end, a finite presence. Where does it exist? It exists here. This is what it looks like. Right? It has a blue color. There's something to it. It's just Ein Sof. No end, so you don't even see anything. And that Ein Sof, that's a Yesh Amiti. That's a true presence. Something finite is just what it is, and it's something that was made, and it has a particular function, particular purpose. It's not the real thing, that which is true in and of itself. That which is true in itself is Ein Sof.
So something that is completely sublime that we cannot relate to is something like Ein Sof?
Right. It depends what you mean by sublime, cannot relate to.
Like blue. Meaning like you can't really touch it, but like that's how Ein Sof, like the way we can, like blue is there, the same Ein Sof is there. Is that what?
Well, why can't you touch blue? Blue is, you touch it with
How
your...
do you touch it?
Huh?
How do you
No, you cannot touch it with your hands, but you touch it with your brain. Ein Sof means you can't grasp it. The brain cannot grasp what it is. I mean, touch with your hand is a low level of touch. But, intellectual grasp, comprehend what it is about. What is it? Like the example of sight. The truth is that even though we experience sight all the time, and our life is actually based on sight. This is what's real, the real experience in the world is sight. We cannot really explain and understand what that is. What kind of experience is this? Sight, it gives us the sense of a real presence, of a real reality, something that really exists. And this reality is not a reality that we can explain. It's not a worldly reality. The reality that we are exposed to by sight is clearly a godly creation. Because only a godly creation has that kind of truth, that kind of true presence. I should be able to see it without touch, without being affected by it. Nobody can really explain what kind of experience is it to see something. Because it is really beyond it. We experience in the world, but it's not. It's bigger than natural, than the limits of world. The reason it exists in the world is because the world itself really is bigger than world, because it's a godly creation. The world is really a miracle. We take it for granted, but really it's a godly miracle. There's nothing natural, compelling in the world, and it should be what it is. And this is why we see it. We see it. What does it mean? You see it. Okay? We're talking about Ein Sof, so we have to stop at some point.
It's Chachma, it's a Chachma.
Otherwise, it can go on indefinitely. Because really, there is no way to grasp it. You cannot, there's no way you can fully explain to somebody the impression you had by seeing something. You can tell them what it looks like, but it's no different than my touch.
It's not different.
What?
You said it's not different than touch?
If you're expressing what it looks like, its dimensions, you're expressing essentially what you can find out by touch as well. You can measure it and you tell them, well, it's 5 foot by 2.
That's just the dimensions.
That's the dimension.
The other parts.
Okay, whatever it is, I'm saying, if you're going to be describing it in terms of what it looks like and what it feels like, it is all that which lends itself to touch. But you seeing it, but the impression of the experience of sight per se, you cannot describe. What?
So how do we come to like the Kabbalah and all the other things like we speak and how it works? Like they're trying to bring down spiritual concepts into this material world. So how do we go up to the level where we can understand that not as a Gashmius thing, but actually the way it is in Ein Sof?
We cannot understand that the way it is in Ein Sof. This is where we understand what is greater than understanding. And then we also possess koyches that are higher than understanding. We possess the koyach of chokhmah, we possess the koyach of emunah. And chokhmah is actually higher than understanding. Just like sight. We possess sight, we experience it, and we cannot understand what it is. Chokhmah is also a koyach nefesh, that we don't have a full comprehension, full grasp what it is, but we have it. And we do not need to understand that which cannot be understood, which is beyond understanding. There's no purpose for it. Because we trust that the Rebbe made a real thing, and therefore it's there. We can freely experience it because it's God the creation, and we trust Hashem. We don't need the world to substantiate it. You with me? The science philosophy is, don't trust your eyes, don't trust your sight. In other words, don't trust God. Trust only the physical world. So what do you mean having? What do you have as a result? Nothing. You with me? Yeah? Okay, let's go. Okay, this is Pshat Yesh Amiti. This is the true Yesh. This is, it seems ayin, it's ungraspable, it's not definable, so it's not a real existence. No, that's the true existence. That's the true Yesh. Shemimenu nimshach beis bechinas ayin. And from this Yesh Amiti, is drawn two elements, two types of ayin. Ki yodua umevur b'mokim acher, as is known and is explained elsewhere, sheyesh beis bechinas ayin, that there are two bechinas, two aspects of ayin, which means two levels, two types of ayin. Ho-aleph, the first ayin, is lahatzil hane'etzolim. The first ayin is that which emanates and reveals the world of Atzilus, what's called Hane'etzolim. Vehabeis, and the second ayin, hu lahaveis hanivroim dibiyah, to bring forth and create the creatures in biyah, in the world, and bring it in Asiya.
What's the Hatzel HaNatzalim, like to emanate the emanation?
Hane'etzolim, emanate Atzilus. I want to explain this inyan. Why do we turn all of a sudden to the inyan from ayin? And we say that there are two types of ayin, lahatzil hane'etzolim and lahavez hanivroim dibiyah. I'll give you a little bit of an analogy just as a first introduction to the concept. The human being is, everyone starts off as being a child and was born from a father and a mother, and it has that sequence. There's a father and a mother, and then the child is born.
Sequence?
It's order, how things all go. If you take an analogy, somebody builds a car. Also, there's an engineer, somebody who conceptualizes it, somebody who designs it, somebody who builds it. So we have here a human being, and we have a car. Both are the product of a human mind. What is the difference between them? There are many differences. But in terms of what we want to see, the car is not, even though it was created, it stands by itself, is not an entity unto itself. Without the human being who sits in the car and drives it, it's nothing. It's a heap of steel. doesn't think for itself, doesn't feel for itself, doesn't want itself. He doesn't care whether it's standing there and running away or is being driven. It means nothing to him. It doesn't become a separate thing or a thing unto itself. The human being, he comes from a father and a mother, right? And he's related to them, but he becomes a totally complete entity. A Metzias. What's supporting him? Where does he get that quality? That he should become totally independent. Have his own koyach, his own seichel, his own midas, his own neshama, his own life, his own will. He can, so to speak, innovate a will and a desire totally independent. Where does it come from? Right? He's a Metzias. He was made. The answer is that yes, indeed, he was made. But in this making, he was connected to an ayin, to the ayin alaki, which provided him with a full-fledged presence, unlimited. This is the Ein Sof. Every person essentially draws his highest from Ein Sof, not from a finite source, but from an infinite source. And there is no limit how far a person can grow, what he can understand, what he can develop. There's no limit. Literally, there's no limit. The expression, the sky is the limit, is a correct expression for the human being. This is the concept of ayin. Yesh me'ayin. It's a created being, but it's given the full spectrum, the full infinity in which he can grow and develop, unrestrained. This is the union to the ayin, lahatzil haneyatzolim, the two ayins, lahatzil haneyatzolim, and the ayin livrei hanivroim. The nivroim are a much different level than the neatzolim, but both of these levels are rooted in ayin, which means there is a real creation here.
What's the second one? The car you said is compared, the mechanic makes the cars compared to the second level?
No.
No. You said something.
No, it's not. Just want to explain what's meant by ayin.
Right.
The car is not me'ayin. It doesn't have its own presence at all. It's yesh me-yesh. I gave you the car as an example to understand the significance of saying that this is me'ayin, because it really becomes a full-fledged presence.
Mm-hmm.
Totally what's called free. He can direct his life and conceptualize and understand what life is about, totally independent of anything else. That's what's what that me'ayin, unrestrained. They can relate to the truth. Okay, let's continue a little bit. So there are two ayins, lahatzil haneyatzolim and lahavas hanivroim. This ani, which is the yesh amiti, embodies and includes two types of ayin. V'lochein, And for this reason, K'moi sheyesh b'chinas ayin, just as that there is the element of ayin, K'moi shehu b'chinas ani. Just as there is the inyan of ayin, K'moi shehu b'chinas ani, the ayin as it is in that level of ani. What does that mean? So bear with me a little bit, and we'll see how the Rebbe is going to present it. The ayin that is b'chinas ani. Remember we said ani, this is what we call a yesh amiti, the true yesh. And in this yesh amiti there is ayin. What does that mean? Shehagam, that although sheshom bottle betachlis, and although that over there in the ani, it is bottle betachlis, it is totally and completely bottle.
What bottle?
Bottle means
No, what bottle? What bottle in Ani?
this ayin.
You say it's two pchinas.
The ayin in the ani is completely bottled. You'll understand in a moment what that means. The ayin in the ani is completely bottled. Ki yodua me'inyan ziv hashemesh b'shemesh. As is known, me'inyan, from the inyan, as in the example, on the concept of ziv hashemesh b'shemesh. The ziv hashemesh as it is inside the shemesh itself. And I'm going to say the parentheses. She'enei oile b'shem klal. The ziv hashemesh inside the shemesh does not allow, does not deserve, so to speak, a separate name, a separate reference, having a name, because it's a non-entity, it's a non-presence. V'hu b'chinas amitis ho'ayin. And this is, the Ziv Hashemet B'Shemesh is in a state of amitis ho'ayin, the true inyan of ayin. Okay, so what is this Ziv Hashemesh B'Shemesh, and what is this that is B'Pchinas Amitis Hu Ayin, the true Ayin? As we spoke before, from sight. Sight involves light, right? Without light you can't see. Now, when light comes and it shines up a place and you're able to see the place. The revelation, that which light shows you that you could see, light is the means by which you're able to see it, right? Light is the means by which we're able to see it. But even though light is the means by which you see it, light itself is totally oblivious. You're not looking at light. When you see a table, you're looking at light or you're looking at the table?
Table.
Look at the table. The light makes itself unobtrusive, unnoticed. It's a non-entity. Ayin. It reveals to you the whole world, but it doesn't participate in it. If light were to participate in it, then you would not be seeing things. It wouldn't be called sight. It would be called something else. Sight means that you see the truth in it itself. Anything that interferes, that becomes an intermediary between you and the object that you see, interferes with the sight. So even though it is true that we see because of through light, and yet light is like a non-entity, as if it didn't exist. To such an extent that it doesn't interfere at all with the object that you see. Like you said, you see the truth of the object itself. Now, this light comes from the sun. So even though, as we described, that when the light shines, you don't even see it, nevertheless, the light is really a presence in the world. It shines in the space. It's really a presence. So it is an ayin, but it is not truly bottle, because it's present outside of the sun. It really is a presence. But then this same light has a source. What is the source of the light? The sun. That means that in the sun itself, there is also that element of light, which is the source of the light that we have here. This is called Ziva Shemesh Bishemesh. Ziva Shemesh, as it is, the light of the sun, as it is inside the sun itself, part and parcel of the sun. Now, what type of presence is that light? The light that's outside of the sun, we say it's a presence. But this presence makes itself unnoticed. But it's a presence. What type of presence is this light inside the sun itself? Now, we have to understand what's the implication of the question. This light, where does it come from? Who creates this light? The sun creates it. Since the sun creates it, that means that as far as the sun is concerned, this light is totally insignificant, because the sun creates it infinitely from itself. You follow what I'm saying? It's not a presence. The light in the sun is not like the sun accumulated a certain amount of light and now it's shining it. The sun is constantly emanating light. The sun is the infinity of light, so to speak. The etzem of light. So that the presence of light in the sun loses significance totally. Outside of the sun, at least it has a function. But inside the sun, it has no significance whatsoever. Why? Because inside the sun, it is inside its own source. And its own source is infinite relative to this light. Therefore, it's totally insignificant. You get the point?
Yeah, get the point with the sun, but they're not.
Yeah, how do we relate it?
No, it's like, no. Just get the point of the sun.
Oh.
No, I'll expand on it. Just get the point of the sun. You understand that? So you could see that there is light inside the sun, but it's a non-entity because there's infinity of that light in there. So this light is totally insignificant. Now, let's understand before, coming back to the light that shines in the world, which is really a paradox, because it makes us see the whole world. It reveals the whole world, has such tremendous effect, and yet it's totally obtrusive, totally unnoticed. What is that? What is the significance of this? What can make itself so totally unnoticed? So before I answer the question, I want to bring in another point. Really, nothing, how can something make itself so totally unnoticed? Like it doesn't exist. And yet it's functioning. The answer is, what?
Yeah, relating the muscle.
No, don't jump.
Okay.
The answer is, okay, I understand. The answer is that the light really represents not itself. What does it represent?
The sun.
The sun. And the sun is infinite as far as light is concerned. Sun is the originator of light. It's the inventor of light. Therefore, when light comes comes to our world, the light is here and it remains independent of our world. What is it really dependent on? On the sun. This cup stands here. This cup stands here. And it depends on the solidity, the stability of this table. It's not a non-entity. It depends on what happens in the world. If the table would shake, then the cup wouldn't be able to stand. The light is not dependent on the world. The light is actually rooted in the sun. And it's constantly emanating fresh from the sun. So even though it is here, it doesn't become part of the world, part of Metzius in the world. It cannot be affected by the world. Like we say that light can shine on pure gold, and light could shine on dirt, and the light is not affected. Because it remains connected to its source. It represents the sun. This is the pshat, that it's ayin. It's here, but it's not here as a mitzias that becomes dependent on the world accepting it, being a mitzias. It's not. It's here, but it remains independent. It remains ayin. So that's the light that shines here. Even though it's like independent, but there's a certain dependency, certain relationship between the light and the world. What is that? In order for the light to be, it has to have the space that the world provides for it. It shines in this space. So in order that the light should be able to do its function, it needs this space. Even though the light itself is independent, doesn't become part of it, but nevertheless, there is some kind of a combination, kind of correlationship.
So we just leave it at that it has a relationship, and we don't give it any further definition?
So this is why we say that the light is ayin, and it has and it has the function in the world. It functions, it affects the world because of this correlationship. So it's not the absolute element of ayin, because it relates to space. But then there is the oir, the way it is inside the sun itself, which is the source of it. Now, in the source, it has absolutely no function. Where does light have a function? In a place where it's dark. In a place where it's in the sun, it has no function. So, and in the sun, there, if over here the light represents the sun, over there inside the sun, it is only the sun. Doesn't even have to be representing it. That's all there is over there is the sun. So there, this light is the real ayin. There the light is ayin in the true sense. Here it is ayin in a relative sense. It is present, but it does not get affected by the world, right? But it's present. It's not real ayin. No, it's non-existent. It comes through space, and it has a function. So even though it doesn't get affected, and it doesn't interfere with the mitzias of the world, still it is not the true element of ayin, the absolute thing of ayin. Where it stands for something without being there. It's there. There is something there. But the light inside the sun is not even representing itself. Outside the sun, it says, "Oh, I'm here. Come on, let me shine. Let me show you the table." You know what I'm saying? It has a function. Over there, all the light is saying, "I'm coming from the sun." That's all it is. In other words, it's pointing exclusively to the sun. Doesn't even have a function. This is what we call the true ayin. What is the significance of that statement, true ayin? Just as we've explained over here, that the reason that the light can be here without and not being affected is because it is still connected to its source. So that it in itself doesn't count. Right? It's constantly being rejuvenated from the source. And that's all I am. I'm light from the sun. I can be affected because my whole Metzias is bottled to the sun. This is the way it is here. It is here, and it can be affected because it's bottled to the sun. But still, it's a presence. The way it is inside the sun, then it is the real ayin, because all it is the revelation of the sun. It's not even a functional presence. The light that we have here has its source in the sun, but it has a function. The light inside the sun has only the first element, that it has the source from the sun. It doesn't even have a function. What is the significance of the term ayin in there? The ayin in there is, it represents the truth of the sun, but it represents the truth of the sun in a true way. Not by making itself a presence, but by being bottled, by just representing the sun.
Not when it's here?
What?
Not when it's here, though?
Not,
Not the case when it's here? That's only the case when it's in the sun?
that's right. Over here also, but not in the same level. Over here he has a function.
Mm-hmm.
He has another element that he can affect the world. Over there he doesn't have that.
It's just
Just
represents the
Just
source,
represent
that's
the
all.
sun. That's right. This is the true eye. Okay, so I think we'll give you a rest.
Relation?
We don't want this.
I think we both.
Okay.
So it's good for your session.
The relation and in general is that essentially the light inside the sun is representing the truth of the sun itself, the source. This ayin, even though it's a separate entity, it's light, it's oir, but this oir is so pure and so bottled to the essence that it actually brings the essence itself to bring the essence itself to the outside. And essentially what this means in the bigger scheme of things, which will be the easier thing, the bigger scheme of things is, it means this, that, like we said before, that even though we are creations, and we are independent people, we are independent presences in the world, yet we can do a mitzvah. This mitzvah is a mitzvah from the Meibashter, directly from Atzmos. Where does Atzmos come to us? Where do we come to Atzmos? Everything comes to the Oyer and Soif, to the Oyer. But ultimately, there is this inyan that we're all connected to the Meibashter himself. And this is how it's possible. We should do a mitzvah, and we don't understand what the mitzvah is about, right? We say, hey, the Eibashter is here, the Eibashter says, do the mitzvah, do it. But I don't see him. I do see him. I see him through the Oyer and Soif. Because the Oyer is ayin. And it is completely bottled to the earth. We're going to learn about this, but you understand? You see what the correlationship is now.
It's not the relationship I was looking for, but
You want to explain what it means that the Rebbe says, Ani, I myself took you out of Mitzrayim. What is Ani? Ani. The Ani, this is the source of the real I. In the Moshel, this is the Shemesh. Okay? Sorry you missed it out. You'll get it from your colleagues.
take them for a flight.